Welcome back, everyone, to the Deadlock Fight Night number 22, presented by Intels. We're finally making our way over to the North American portion of our broadcast, which honestly has been shaping up to be a thing of beauty these last 3 to 4 weeks. I'm just Cap and joined by Dan DDK, the man, also known as the co-caster to the People's Dick. Dan, how you doing, man?
Wow. So I didn't bring that up again, but are you now branding yourself as this?
I like it. I accept
cool. It has stuck.
It has stuck indeed, just like our format of the show, man. 22 weeks in. If you guys are just joining us and are unfamiliar with how DFN works, it is a special show match where we have 2 teams invited to take on a challenger match to determine who takes on our reigning champion from the previous week. And then, of course, when you get into that money match, the winner will take home $1,000. Over in EU, we did have one win team come back for being down 0-1 in the series up against Virtus Pro to take themselves to back-to-back matches and, of course, the 1K prize pool for themselves. But now as we move over into North America, Dan, Melee Creeps B&B, there is some big news stirring here in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually just been in general really cool to see that the gap is closing a bit on Hydra Nation. They keep finding ways to extend it a bit, but overall the scene seems to be developing into a healthy state, and maybe arguably more healthy than the EU scene from what things seem like, which is unexpected.
100%. As you can see here in number 21 of DFN, we did have B&B take down Melee Creeps and advance on through to play against Hydra Nation, where they took the first map in the series, but then did lose the next 2 following matches. I mean, we always talk about B&B, of course, when it comes to Ido in particular. But man, I'm feeling we might have a change in King this week or potentially next with some changes we've seen in Melee Creeps side. But before we can fully dive into Melee Creeps and some roster changes they have had, I gotta remind you guys once again, if you love DFN here, you can go support us over on deadlockfightnight.com. We have some sweet new merch for you related to Dynamo and of course 7. And I'm not gonna lie, that group hug mug does look pretty great. The shirt, I'm a little scared because I don't want like random strangers coming up to hug me, but maybe one day when we get a Deadlock event, I'm gonna wear that and then have to go through everyone coming up to hug me. But keep in mind, I am extremely tall.
Dude, I can already see the like oversized, cosplay of like the Dynamo at events and stuff like this. I keep having these like,
it's gonna be so cool.
These like forward flashes to what the Deadlock events will be like in the future, and just this massive Dynamo that's out there just like hugging people.
Can you use that power to tell me like what skins we're gonna have in this game? Because like Dynamo already looks so sick, having that like galaxy inside of his head. What they potentially are gonna do with him, and of course all the other heroes, is gonna be really cool to see.
Yeah, I can't wait. So far the hero design and everything's been pretty spot on. So I'm stoked, man. I am stoked.
Okay. You're stoked. I'm stoked, and hope you guys are stoked as well. As we take a quick look. Actually, I think we already looked at our schedule pretty much what's coming up today. So in the meantime, why don't we just bring in our analyst who has been able to win multiple houses from last week's when it came to the betting. I don't know if you did anybody in this week, Jake, but it's gonna be.
I lost all my homes in the end. You know what? We gambled and we lost. We took a risk and it didn't pay off. We'll have to see if we can spin it back up, put it all on black. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're all about here. We don't stop gambling. That 99% of gamblers stop before they hit their big win, and I won't be one of them.
That's true. 100% true. Well, let's dive into our first matchup here as we're trying to kind of catch up to some time. And I'm going to go straight into Melee Creeps because one of the biggest things, if you guys haven't noticed, you haven't followed them over on Twitter, or you haven't seen any of the retweets out there, they have dropped Axe and brought in Quig, of all people. And if you guys are unfamiliar with Quig, he was the key factor to Hydra Nation winning 12 weeks straight in DFN. And honestly, he's been coined as probably being the reason why they won so many weeks in a row. He is the in-game leader for the team. He is an extremely good player. And to see him be brought back for Melee Creeps, for me, is kind of interesting, Dan, because it seemed like he was kind of out. But not only did he come back, Rocker came back, funny enough.
Look, okay, I've been in esports a long while. No one retires. They just take breaks, and that is evidently what happened here with Quig. The interesting thing with the lineup that we saw that was new last week was the addition of John as well. I think that, we know what Quig is capable of and what he adds to a team. With John, we see the Warden picture there. Warden is thoroughly out of the meta, it would appear, and yet we saw John on the Warden last week. So my hope is that we'll see some work on that hero pool there that would allow that to be a little bit more fitting for the current meta.
Nonetheless, I was impressed with John's Warden. I thought they actually played a pretty good game on it. It made me a believer. I was like, wait, this is not bad. I don't think the Warden pick was the reason they lost. I thought their opponent just played a better game, but I was impressed with John. So I want to see more from this guy. I agree with you though. Put him on maybe like a more dominant meta character, put him in a little bit better position to succeed. But this team has been one of those few teams who have been able to dethrone Hydra Nation in the past, and they're looking to repeat history here back in the Challenger match in DFN.
I think the interesting thing is, and I'm gonna hop back to John again just really quickly, is they knew he only really played Bebop and Warden, and they know that's one of the weaknesses of him as a player. But to still pick him up over a lineup that you've had be so successful to be one of the few teams to take down Hydra Nation, I think shows the trust they have in him as a player. And I think that's a good sign about potentially what he can do in the future. But I am curious, has he been able to extend that hero pool further, which we're obviously gonna be finding out here as they take on their opponents, B&B, previously known as Big and Brolic. And I mean, there's one thing that's always going to stand out in this roster to me, besides the fact that they all play Abrams, obviously.
He was just taken. This is like Santa Monica Gold's Gym.
Damn. I wish I was that buff. Is the fact that like you have Ido on the team. He is the star player. He is the empty dreams of one win is my comparison over to EU. But one weakness I see within this roster, maybe Jake, you want to dive into, is they don't have that ABL in the team. Like Poppers, if he doesn't get Great Talon or he doesn't get Yamato or gets shut down on Yamato, they have a tough time taking matches.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, there's like a couple hero pool limitations for this team, but they also have really big strengths when they're able to get it. Like, so from the opponent perspective, sure, you could attack Popper's hero pool, but does that mean you're going to give Ido Pocket? Does that mean you're going to give Gibbs the Viscous, right? Like, there's a lot of great picks for the squad that I think they can use. And so, yes, maybe one or two of the players will end up in a position where they're a little bit less comfortable, but that just allows somebody else to be the star for that game. So I think this team, yeah, well, they're not the most flexible. I do think that they can still get a lot of the pieces they need and then, fill in the rest. Even if a player is like specialized on a certain role, I don't think they're going to fall off the cliff completely. That being said, I think the Melee Creeps roster, as you mentioned, like bringing on a couple new pieces, there's a real chance for them to hit a new stride and to be a lot stronger than they were last week, which, remember, that match was extremely competitive with B&B.
Well, if we're going to talk about, Melee Creeps and talk about the potential take on Hydra Nation, they actually did technically beat them just a few days ago in the Gluten Steak tournament. That was the best of 5 between Melee Creeps and Hydra Nation, and this is when Quig was just added to the team like 1 or 2 days earlier on. Now, I guess technically they did lose the series. They were up 2-1 in the best of 5, but were unfortunately not able to continue to play out the rest of the matches, so they had to just forfeit from there on. But to be able to take down Hydra Nation 2-1 already, with Quig being so new into the roster, I think is as a telling sign for us, Dan, that they do have that potential to hit those heights once again.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we saw especially in the map, there was one against Hydra Nation last week, that Hydra Nation aren't indomitable, especially in the early laning phase. It is something that Hydra Nation are much improved at, but they showed that they too bleed and that they are beatable in that phase of the game. And so and that's the most important phase of the game. And so if Melee Creeps are able to come away at least on parity, then it's more about how effective are you in applying your strategy going into the mid game that your draft can, because your draft is now sort of opened up to play it across the map. Now you've kind of unlocked all the lanes. So that's the interesting aspect. You get to see like the actual deadlock, I feel like, as opposed to just getting shut out in the early laning phase. So I'm pumped. I think Melee Creeps can definitely do some damage.
Well, before we can even get into the laning phase, we have to do what we love to do at DFN, is have our 1v1 Mo fight. The battle, the fisticuffs, break it down over in the mid-boss pit room. And you know what, Jake? I think you got to channel your inner Josh here and break it down for us.
The first parry comes out, and it's 2 punches, big, powerful punches right into the back, into his spleen. The Mo is hurting. He's bleeding. He's suffering. Oh, he's holding his own for now and hasn't dropped out of this pit just yet. Mid-boss pit, parry misses. This is an opportunity for Blue Mo. Both going blow for blow now. Blood pouring out of their ears. Parry comes down. This should be the final nail in the coffin, and there he goes. Poppers is down.
Someone had his nitro brew today, man. I know you were loading up on coffee before, but I think you hit your like 3rd cup of the day, man. So it's good stuff from Josh. I like it. But yeah, we do see the Blue Mo win, which was, I believe, Popper. Sorry, I guess it was Melee Creeps. I actually didn't pay attention. I was too flabbergasted at how cool Josh's casting was there.
The other guy was named something weird, so I didn't know who it was. But I think it was Poppers who died. So
it's B&B 1, and then they gave over first pick to Melee Creeps, it seems.
Which so far everyone has done in Europe too, has given the first pick to their opponent when they have prio. So maybe, I mean, there's a lot of, I think, strong heroes right now. So I think it makes sense that you're not super valuing the true number 1 pick, and instead you value just having that double back-to-back pick, being able to set yourself up with a powerful combo or respond to the first pick with 2 powerful choices. I do think the GT first pick is also pretty scary though, based on what we saw in Europe.
This is so interesting. There's so many different ways to go with these bans. I guess, week to week, we learn a lot about how the teams have been practicing and how they are developing things. So, we're getting a bit of a look now. Okay, so Bebop opening ban from
Respect
B&B.
ban. Respect ban for John.
Yeah, you want to force him onto the Warden, which is obviously like a much less strong hero in the meta right now. If that's true, if he only plays those 2, I feel like that does really hurt. Maybe they can still make it work, but
last week he did. I don't know about going forward. I don't believe I saw Warden in that Gluten Snake tournament. I was only able to catch like 1 or 2 of the matches. So I think he has extended his pool to be able to play at the level up against B&B. I mean, that's still yet to be seen. But I mean, great talent off the bat. We talked about it being such a high priority pick as of late. And we saw in that last match why with ABL.
And B&B can probably grab the Ido pocket here pretty confidently.
Yeah,
true.
I feel like that's got to be a no-brainer, right?
It's good against the GT. It's good for the team, good for the player. I feel like
no more hiding.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. No funny business. No dancing around it. Just getting it in there. That's good. And Pocket, it's been so cool to see Pocket's resurgence. Honestly, I was actually sad to see him like drop on everyone's like value list like ages ago, because I feel like he's one of the most iconic Deadlock heroes to me. I don't know why that is, but he is for me.
You mean just a guy with a suitcase full of frogs is not normal for you?
I don't know, it's so unique, the character design, that I don't know. I just think of Deadlock when I think of Pocket. But we get the same player to follow up, and that's something that's been super highly valued by OneWin and other teams in the EU as well. It's like Sinclair was like overvalued, and then kind of like undervalued, and then people started to figure it out, and now we're kind of back, I think, in a more normal place with it.
So now he's valued.
Exactly. People know how to use them now.
I'm kind of curious for Melee Creeps, talking to AVG a little bit, and obviously looking at like him and Poshipop. Them as a duo are so damn good when it comes to a lane. I remember, was it last week, watching them play? I want to say it was like Mirage 7. I can't remember what AVG was playing in particular in that lineup or that matchup, but they were so dominant in their lane. And I'm really curious, are they going to try to set those 2 players up in particular for success? Because I know Quig coming into the team, he's going to have to adapt to how the team likes to play. Is the team going to adapt to how he likes to lead? I'm really curious to see how like the inner workings of this team goes. But I know AVG's been playing like a ton of Shiv lately. Poshipop, he's been playing everything, and he's even willing to play over on EU servers when NAQs die down. This team's hungry, man, and I really want to see what they're going to bring here today.
I want to see a Yamato maybe or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a Yamato coming out here for B&B. I also wouldn't. I'm curious to see how the NA teams view Kelvin. They're gonna grab the Mo Krill, which I also like, has been distinctly more valued in NA than EU, but it's also been winning a ton in NA. It's been looking super scary, super difficult to push out lanes with the threat of the Mo. And I think especially it's a great answer to Holiday, who likes to get in for her catches and then pull somebody out. But if you get comboed and caught, then your lasso's not worth much at all. Same sort of story for Calico. And so I do like that pick for B&B. I think they do need a bit more frontline maybe for now, as they ban out the Viscous. So that's, a common counter pick to Mo, the ability to save the combo target and then roll in and cancel the stun anyway.
I can see a Yamato ban now. I thought it was going to be a Yamato pick into a Melee Creeps Yamato ban. But I think maybe it gets reversed now.
I kind of want to see it just to see Poppers play something else. And I know I could probably come off like as overly critical to him, but the reason I do so is because when we first saw him play within B&B, he did amazing. It was fantastic to see, but then he kind of never matched that same height in my eyes. And if you're going to be someone on the team that has to be a playmaker, that has to join Ido and the likes to be that like kind of threat, I have to see that depth in his pool and the same level of success we saw in his initial get-go. So I kind of wanted to see the Yamato take it away just so he's forced to play something different, but I wouldn't be surprised here, Jake, to see Yamato be locked in for B&B now.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all. It's going to be the Kelvin, though, which does surprise me a little bit, because I think now Melee Creeps can respond with the Yamato of their own. I also am really curious to see Melee Creeps what John ends up playing, because I think Warden is a really bad pick this game into this. They already have Sinclair. I think it's like the best ult in the game for Sinclair to copy. It's just so powerful to have that ward multi, and you know, you're naturally going to build a build that makes it pretty effective as well. It's just like so challenging to fight when he turns it around on you. And so I think this will be, I mean, if John John plays Warden, I feel like they really are forcing it this game. So I'm kind of hopeful that he's going to bring something else out and show us what else he has in the pool, what else he's been practicing.
Could see an Abrams potentially here would be kind of nice. They've got a really brawly front line, like the Calico Yamato Abrams would be kind of nasty. So that's what I would like to see in this like fifth slot.
Let's have fun,
Could he get Geist as well? Okay, so that's pretty similar in terms of kind of.
I like that they have like a lot of ranged poke threat, even though as good as their front line is. They're not like, I think Abrams is like true point blank, right? Whereas like a lot of these heroes, the Geist, the Yamato, they're a little bit stepped back from that. Calvico can get in, make the scouting, Holiday can come make plays, but when it comes to like just like shooting guns from mid range, you know, Mo tries to grab somebody, even if you can't quite get to him, you can pump damage on Yamato and Geist and really pressure that. And the 7 comes out for BNB, but I'm a little worried, like think about the last game, about 7's ability to actually ult this game with whether it's the Holiday's lasso, whether it's Great Talon just nuking you. Same story for Yamato and Geist. This could be a challenging 7 game to like survive long enough into the fights. I think you're gonna get focus fired, and especially with the Calvin, sometimes you can ulti in the frozen shelter, but it more often than not feels like there's a bit of anti-synergy.
No, not
Viper
again.
From BNB.
Fish cake,
Okay.
please.
The crazy cheese, it worked last time, but I'm pretty convinced 2 rejuve steals is more than you can expect out of a Viper.
But it worked last time too, because they had like they had Mirage, right? They had a lot of like split push. They had a lot of mobility on the team, and I guess this is not an immobile team. I mean, 7 can run pretty fast. Calvin's got the ice path. Pocket is pocket. Sinclair can TP. Mo and Krill can kind of burrow. So you got some mobility and like good escape options, but still, it doesn't feel as good as when they had like the Mirage and just like, because they had Calico as well, I think. So they were able to be like crazy.
I don't think you can play it as like a rat, kind of I think that you really are just playing Viper this game as like your carry, which is like, I guess I will say like the Viper does have theoretically like insane DPS. So with a combo, you can actually make that theoretical possibility a little bit more realistic, that somebody's actually locked down immobile and you can slide around them in a circle and just gun them down. But I do like the Ivy in response to potentially have some single target heal and save, or just to knock up the Viper with that the ultimate dropping the slow on people, or just making it awkward to slide around by kudzu bombing the floor.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of give a lot of zone control with Ivy then that he can't really slide around into. But also, I mean, Geist does something similar with a lot of zone control.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that I really like about Geist into Kelvin is that if you max that Essence Bomb, you leave a dot ticking over time on the ground, which is pretty much the size of a Frozen Shelter. But then you pair that with a Heal Bane, and you kind of eliminate how strong Frozen Shelter can be for a team. So like a pretty decent counter if you can pair that with an Ivy as well. But like, kind of look at these 2 compositions. You know, Jake, I'm going to put you on the spot here since we'll eventually have to say goodbye to you. Who are you really liking more?
I like the melee creeps draft more. I feel like BNB, the Kelvin looks out of place to me, frankly, in this draft, where I mean, like, who is going inside the Frozen, like, who are you locking people in with? I feel like that's what you want to do on Kelvin, is you lock somebody in with the Shiv, with the Yamato, Calico, somebody who's going to, like, really punish you at point blank range and that you can't escape from, that uses the heals really well. Who is that on BNB? I mean, is it, like, Sinclair meleeing you down?
Viper?
Is it Viper, I guess, sliding around in the Frozen? I mean, like, in theory, yeah, but there's not... I think the best combos in the game, they don't have any of like the top 3 in my eyes. And so I'm a little worried about the way Kelvin can be played. I will say I think the pick-off threat is pretty serious from BNB. But honestly, I just think Melee Creeps got overall like a really strong draft that scales, I think, pretty significantly better. I guess Viper is a bit of an X factor. Like it can sort of scale also super well. But I just like what I'm seeing from Melee Creeps. It's a very straightforward draft, like a lot of powerful gun heroes. Just curious to see what John plays.
Yeah, and you're right too about like something for all of the ranges as well as the zone control. There is like a lot of synergy, a lot of damage, a lot of burst. It's nasty.
I will say this though, is that we've seen Ido on Pocket, and I feel like the comp doesn't matter a ton if Ido plays Pocket and he plays it to the true quality that we see him normally play it. But I know what you mean, and I would agree. But actually, let me take a step further then, Jake. So if you were to take Kelvin out of the roster, because you were saying he's a little bit of the oddball in this one, who would you have liked to seen put in instead, assuming you could pick someone on Melee Creep side?
Yeah, I mean, I think was Kelvin picked before Yamato? I would think like the Yamato or the Geist would be like a little bit of a more natural pick than the Kelvin. And then maybe once you get one of those, once you get the Yamato or something like that, or once you get the Kelvin, maybe you could have grabbed a Shiv or something of that nature. I'm not necessarily against the Kelvin. I just feel like it doesn't have as much synergy as I think you want to be playing with Kelvin. I'm thinking like Seven and Sinclair, Mo, Krill, Pocket. Like these aren't really heroes that want to soak a bunch of damage and then like get tanked through with the frozen shelter. The heroes, there's a lot of hit and run on BNB's side, and I feel like Kelvin is sort of the opposite of the hit and run hero. I mean, in the lane, I think he could do just fine, but maybe the Viper is the combo. I honestly don't know as much about how the Viper plays at this level because we just see it so very rarely. But maybe that is the key for BNB, is having Viper like slide around in these close range engagements and really hit a serious scaler, because Melee creeps, they don't have the best lockdown for Viper. It really is just like Holiday with the lasso, which could sometimes be hard to hit. Or I mean, Ivy stunning Viper feels a little bit ambitious with mobility Viper does have. So maybe Viper can actually just have a big performance in this game. I mean, the possibilities for Viper is super high. It just feels feast or famine that, your reliance on the sliding mechanic and your very short range, it can kind of punish you sometimes in these high level games.
I feel also like one of Viper's strengths is like Viper's pretty good at farming because of the like high single target damage and ways you can kind of like get reloads in. So you can farm really effectively on Viper because you can tackle those higher tier camps like pretty early on. But the issue is that in general, if you have somebody farming, we're just looking at the meta and what's working. Teams that have heroes that can keep pace with the team and not overemphasize the farming at all, or even think about it as much, tends to have more value because you're converting more map control, you're converting more objectives, you're creating better team fights, which allows you to also invade your opponents, Gamba or just jungle. So that's where you get your farm, is from pressure. So I feel like that's not even something that you would value too much for Viper, even though I'm trying to figure out, okay, what are the pluses of a Viper? So I'm like trying to think about it, and the only thing I can really think of like synergy wise is like the Viper pocket with Affliction plus the lethal venom, because Affliction is gonna get someone low, and lethal venom explodes based on how much health you're missing in spirit damage. So you inevitably could get like a pop on someone in that sense if you do time it correctly. Then also you get like healing reduction on the lethal venom as well at a Viper. So they could single target one person pretty quickly and then look to, or at least hope to, win the fight off the back of that. But I also feel like there's just so much damage on melee creep side that like if Viper doesn't have a decent start, he's just going to be popped in any of the fights anyways.
I think it's a great point, Dan, that like you can have all the jungle clear speed in the world, but if you're going to clear the jungle while you're losing lane creeps and you're losing guardian, it's not worth it. It's a losing play. You need to be winning your lanes, forcing the enemy into bad responses, and then going to clear jungle. And like the jungle clear speed is not the key element there. It's the ability to put the opponent on the back foot in the first place to make that a reasonable possibility. And once you get into like really late game, it can be nice that you can like clear camps much faster than other options. But I think that can't be enough, right? We need to see the vision for Viper in the late game. I mean, honestly, maybe the vision is like the rejuve steals are pretty sick, though, that like Fishcake was able to bring it out. It seems like Viper may be the best rejuve stealer in the game. That ulti is just like perfectly tooled for exactly that scenario. So maybe that's a factor. I think melee creeps got to be very cautious going for the rejuve, should learn from Hydra Nation's mistakes if they want to take that mid boss early in the game, make sure Viper is dealt with.
I am learning some really creepy facts in chat that apparently Viper is actually a girl because only girl lizards have tails.
What?
Okay. I don't know. I'm just reading chat.
For all lizards have
I think she does sound like a girl. I think the VO is
true. Yeah,
we've talked about it on broadcast before. She's literally from Wisconsin. It's a Wisconsin voice acted woman.
Viper's the cheesehead.
You what, mate?
Anyway, so we are going to see our lane matchup here. It will be Viper paired with Kelvin over on the right-hand side up against the Holiday and
Kevin, my favorite Deadlock hero.
I think Kevin is actually ZP's ultra personality.
Good Kevin and Justin, so like Mo and Krill, but like, yeah, you're riding ZP shoulders.
Oh no, please.
Sick.
And then we see the Sinclair Mo in the mid lane. So Jake, before we obviously do let you go here, is there anything you want to touch on in particular now that we have our lane matchups assigned?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see. It's going to be John on the Geist. I'm curious to see especially how the mid lane goes, right? We talked about Great Talon being this like huge snowball threat. So I want to see a strong early mid lane out of melee creeps is, I think this is a team that we talked about in that previous tournament, being able to be up 2-1 and unfortunately needing to forfeit, but like, you can win against Hydra Nation. Melee creeps, they've got to play with a lot of confidence here, and an opening first blood is a great way to do that, but they want another shot at Hydra Nation. They want to be able to get the win that they feel they deserve. So I want to see them put on a real strong showing here in game 1.
All right, well, Dan, here we go. Kicking things off. Already initial kill coming through. Big Meanie will, in fact, I guess, be low main. I don't know why it's taken this many weeks for teams to learn to use their proper names, but you know what? At least we have our production crew to help us out with this one with the process of elimination.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing how these lanes are looking at the early stages. I'm actually kind of worried for B&B's Viper lane because Fishcake just got like chunked down to 30% health pretty quickly. And if you then look at the reasons for that, well, a Geist in a Holiday is shooting at you and your health pool is very low set by default. So it's going to be a hard lane to survive in, even though you got the Keldon there that can potentially heal you, because there's so much, the damage is so disproportionately favored towards melee creeps there. I feel like you're always going to be just fending them off of your tower, which is not a good place to be.
And that's what's so rough too. Like I don't think you want to have to pick a Kelvin to be able to play another hero because they have such a weak laning phase. I feel like that's just a formula for losing and for not being successful whatsoever. But also a little bit of a switch up here. You talked about AVG and Poshipop laning together. It's actually going to be Poshipop over with Quig in the left-hand side. So we've already seen some adaptations within the team as we do see the lethal venom coming through and doing a good amount of damage. So Fishcake able to at least put the damage out while he receives it as well. Going for the healing right off the bat with the extra spirit. I did hear a lot of rumblings about like a spirit venom being something that can be insanely strong. And I wonder if that's something we're going to maybe see in this match.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, of course, we've been framing Viper as garbage, which, hey, I mean, it has to be until proven otherwise, right? we have seen it win with like very specific strategies, which I think some people even use the words cheese because it feels like very difficult to execute that more than once. And you need a pretty specific comp to do it. And if that's only where Viper is viable, well, obviously that's not going to be applicable to most of your games, so you can't consider her. But we've seen in many games, like if famously, you might remember this, Jason, with like Counter-Strike, there's like people didn't realize that one of the guns was extremely good, like the Krieg, and then one day one pro started using it and just started owning everyone, and everyone was like, wait, what? This gun's been unchanged in the game for 3 years, and no one figured it out. It was just always there. So hey, maybe there's something to Viper.
Don't remind me of that. That was a weird time in CS, to be honest, but not as weird as the Tech 9 that had 100% accuracy pretty much when running and gunning. That was fun.
Yep.
I see Krill.
Well, a slight little lead coming up for melee creeps already, just about 2k in advantage. So we can see them already pushed on the right hand side, trying to look for potentially a dive here onto pure content, and Fishcake are holding on to the right lane, and that's gonna be a dive directly onto Poppers, who's immediately gonna fall. AVG able to get that 3k mark a little bit earlier than expected. As you can already see, melee creeps have a lot of ultimates online where B&B don't have a single one here.
Ooh, all right, there's a trade though coming on through from John onto peer content and Fishcake, so that's kill is short-lived, but that will get back on lane fairly quickly. It is a problem though that's B&B, they need to make sure that they don't lose these Guardians too quickly, because I feel like they are in a situation where they really need to be able to put the pressure on their opponents, because if melee creeps get into that dominant position, much like we see with one win, they're not going to let the momentum stop. They're going to keep those invades going. So melee creeps, or rather B&B needs to try to prevent that from happening, at least delay it so that they can get a bit more farmed up, get a bit more strong themselves.
Ooh, okay. A little bit of an airdrop coming in as Poshipop returns back to lane, going for the dive. Jet transformation goes through as well. The knockup Plasan is going to be landing, and Poshipop will get the first, and Quig will get the second. A quick little turnaround, and that's exactly, at least if you're a melee creeps fan, you wanted to see, considering you don't want to let Ido and co free him up in that lane to start ganking, start building up some momentum, and keeping him in check here. So a good little turnaround out of MC.
Oh, and there's a quick combo connected, and that's not fun for low main. Going down on the GT, that's really showing the power of the Mo, and that combo comes online. There's just nothing you can do. And B&B, that's fantastic for them, because they're taking some L's there on the right side, but obviously they had 3 players there off the spawn. We got that assist, and that's going to allow a little bit more lane control there on that mid lane, but obviously giving up some strength on the left lane while Seven was playing by himself. Yams.
I mean, smart play by Ido too, having his boost up. He goes for the quick dive in onto middle to back them up, then retreats away. Good use of the spectral assistant, but the chase is still going to come through, and AVG is going to secure this one. And also the owl comes through to hit onto Gibbs. Not enough damage to turn this one around, but either way, Melee Creep still coming out with another kill, and still nursing about a 1 to 2k soul lead.
B&D trying to get this pressure on this left side. Boshy Pop unable to stop the tower from going down, so nice early win there from B&B. Actually taking down the first tower, so that's actually a great sign. I wasn't expecting that to necessarily be the case. I don't know about you, Jason, but this is definitely a better start than I expected for B&B.
I think that's what I was maybe looking for them to do, is because you can free up Ido now. He already ganked middle. Now he's free to just leave Yams to farm up this left-hand side lanes for him to make that impact that we want to see out of his pocket in a lot of these other lanes, which honestly right now they need on the right-hand side. And somehow the lasso goes through the wagon. Pure Content gets caught out and gets eliminated. Frozen Shelters to come in last second, plus the Soul Exchange to come through on top of this. I don't think Fish Cake is long for this world. He will fall. And Melee Creeps with another 2 kills on the right-hand side lane, not to mention a kill in the Poppers in mid.
Yeah, so that lane is definitely very problematic. And that's important for Melee Creeps. You know, having lost that left side tower, they're going to be able to claim that one. Well, there's a combo in mid in the meantime. Good way to defend. Fend off the Calico.
Interesting to note too that Quig did leave the left-hand lane to let Poshy Pop continue to farm, especially as we hit this 8-minute mark, allowing him to get that full soul value instead of splitting it between the two players. You saw Ido try to go for a rotate in towards the mid lane, but it was just a little bit too late here, as now that lead's grown to 5k, even though we've only had one Guardian taken a piece from both sides. But when we get close to this 10-minute mark, you know, remember last week, Dan, it kind of surprised us at how much focus it came down to for all of these teams to immediately go for a fight around the pickup, not even the turn in. Now we had that switch up a little bit when it came to EU, but I'm not sure if NA is going to stay that way.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I always love seeing those differences between both EU and NA and how they approach pretty much every situation in the game. And both teams looking for, you know, potential fights here, whilst they're also trying to farm a little bit, making sure they can take those sacrifices, make sure they don't leave those ones up. But a bit of farm here on Melee Crew's side of the map. You've got Poppers, who is not too far away, can certainly hear all of that, knows there's a couple players around the corner. 3 players here for B&B in mid at the moment, but they would be outnumbered if they were to start something.
Oh, yeah, 4 for Melee Creeps. AVG's got to get back. Combo is available, but gives solo on HP. Can't even afford to go for it. Quig's going to confirm that kill, and a pretty decent timing on this one to happen too, because we're in less than a minute out for the buff to spawn in. Gibbs will get back in towards the fight as Lowmain and Quig and even Saya all committed their ultimates into that last fight. So it actually could be a decent turnaround for B&B here. If they time the fight in the next 20-30 seconds, they could have the earn pickup or at least the buffs.
Yeah, it's funny actually, because you can see both teams gravitating towards mid because they're like, okay, well that's a really important Guardian to get down. But I think, like you say, I would expect that the earn becomes the next objective that the teams are more focused on, and that's been the trend at the very least. But obviously, I wonder if this is something that would change in Deadlock, but currently, you know, it's random. You don't know which side the earn's going to spawn on necessarily. So
I thought it always spawns left side.
Does it always spawn left side?
Or am I wrong? Maybe Jake can come in and correct me. I thought it always spawns left. I could be wrong though.
There's a 50% chance we find out you're wrong, and a 50% chance we don't know.
Well, there it is. It's left side, so I feel like you're right.
But I mean, I could. It could be a false positive, right? It could have just happened to spawn on the left side there.
Next game, it'll be a 25% chance that you're wrong.
One thing you were starting to I get hint at there as well, Dan, is one thing I maybe dislike about Deadlock at the moment is it's so objective based fighting, which I get, like strategically wise, it's nice to see, as we do see Gibbs gonna be locked down. The combo comes through last second to maybe keep him alive with the help of the Scorn, but the Owls to come through as well as AVG to lock him down. The Urn has been dropped as the fight's gonna continue over towards the middle lane. Saya's already retreating away. I think B&B realized that they're really not going to have a chance in this fight as they continue to put the pressure on. But what I was trying to say is, like, from what we saw at least last week, a lot of the fighting was like, okay, is Urn spawning? Yes. Okay, let's go group up and look for a fight there. Is mid boss about to spawn? Okay, let's group up and like fight there. I don't know if I like fully like that it's come down to just basically those two objectives, like mid boss or earn every single time to actually force out a team fight.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing with FPS games. You always have to have something that gets players to move from one location to the next. But that thought here, somewhat of a chase down. Yams finding some melee creeps players to try to attack, but this is backfired. This is really, really problematic at this point. Yams is going to get crushed by the reinforcements there. They just turned around and just ate him up. But the urn at least is going to get collected by BNB, so they could try to deposit that or think about it, but they don't have map control on the right side of the map. So that is problem number one. Problem number two is that melee creeps are 10k souls ahead, which is actually quite a bit for this time in the match.
John's been left in this right lane by himself. He has 12k souls. He is so far ahead of everyone in this game at the moment. And the last is going to come through, paired in with the stone form and the owl for good measure. They're going to take him down. Yeah, they might give up the urn, but they're going to pick up a second guardian, giving them that flex slot. And to be honest, I think they're going to be able to rotate in and actually prevent this. John's already positioned in a space at the moment to see it coming through. And Sai is actually pushed up in towards the enemies to get clear vision of it. I don't know what he's doing up there necessarily, but the backup will be there either way. And this is a phenomenal start for melee creeps.
Yeah, great recognition of that interception, that reposition from melee creeps to block. Now, because the other thing is you really have to understand what's happening as quickly as possible in a situation like this when you're holding the urn, because you don't want to just waste your entire team's time. You either want to commit into something or you want to just give it up and go spend your time more productively elsewhere. But they're going to reinforce the position, wait a little bit, and then re-hit into the urn drop-off. Are they going to get it? They should have numbers. They've got the frozen shelter to assist as well, really guaranteeing it. Might not have even have been necessary, but it definitely guarantees that. And the combo afterwards, everybody's grouped up here for B&B, so they're going to be getting some good focused fire. But John, as you say, is pretty buff right now. Out comes the owl from GT, see what it can find, and it's going to get another catch as well, scaling the damage more. Low main having a fun time on GT so far.
+5 in the chats. That was a really well-timed stone form by the Quig too. I think he stops the combo to buy time for John to go for the soul exchange and allow him to get back to full HP and then snowball the fight after that, getting themselves the 2 kills. I actually didn't catch who the urn went to. I'm not sure if you noticed yourself. Looking at souls, it looks like it didn't go the way of melee creeps, but I'm not 100% sure.
BB. I got it.
Oh yeah, with the frozen shelter. Right. Yeah, so maybe the frozen shelter would have helped actually, and that's one of the detriments that if you commit it to just get the objective of a 3k soul turn-in, is it gonna actually outweigh what you potentially lose by not having it up for the fight after that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we're seeing here this is what we're talking about. You can farm these camps pretty fast early on with the single target damage that is available to Viper. And with that said, we're about to move into the next turn. It's going to spawn in 40 seconds, and melee creeps with a decent presence in mid, but B&B with maybe even more. 4 or 5 players for B&B. They would outnumber any aggressors from melee creeps in that mid position, so they have to be cautious. Oh, it's just 3 players. Hey, sometimes it's hard to tell on the minimap, man.
It is very difficult to tell sometimes. I completely agree with you. But like looking into these fights though, Dan, I'm looking towards like Fishcake. He's got to worry about John and Poshi Pop, who are both at 15k apiece and can pretty much burst him down, as well as low main if he hits any of these power shots across this, or charge shots. And then I look at like Ido, he's at 11k. He's not necessarily as like far ahead as I would have hoped to have seen. And also since Pocket has, negative spirit resist by default, that's a lot of damage that he can easily be blown up with. So it's a little bit tougher at B&B right now in my eyes.
Yeah, and you can see the BB team right now not able to contest the urn. It looked like they were thinking about it. They may be able to kind of catch some positioning. Obviously, you can set yourself up. You might be able to find an initiation onto a straggler, but they don't really seem to, at least judging by the minimap, be in a position to do that. Looks like melee creeps have really circumvented any potential gank there and have got the urn on the sort of right side of the bulk of the B&B players. But that said, it looks like melee creeps might see an opportunity here with the lasso and the numbers.
Oh, they're going.
They're going to go in.
There we go. Perfect lasso comes down to pair content. AVG is going to be there. I mean, you have a frozen shelter, but he's not going to commit it into this one. He's going to fall. But I also do like the quick adaptation, because I think they realize if we send too many players over towards this earn turn-in, B&B are going to get a flex slot for free. And I think we're seeing melee creeps reinforce this mid and right lane to make sure they don't give this one away to allow B&B to get that extra slot opened.
it does feel problematic right now for B&B in general, because it feels like on the map, yeah, of course, melee creeps have a sole advantage, so you would expect them to have some level of dominance, but you know, it's not like B&B are in a position where they can't take any fights just yet, but it is the case that B&B keep getting blocked in their rotations in most cases. They're unable to position and take fights as they would like to, because they're definitely, you know, afraid of what melee creeps can do in some of these fights when there's even numbers. So it suggests to me, Jason, that they would love to find some pickoffs to try to switch up the pace on melee creeps, but they don't have a lot of tools to do that outside of Gibbs with the combo.
Let's go to York.
Well, right now this is huge. It's this just delay of turning the urn or pulling players from BB towards his left-hand side allows Sai to push on the right lane Walker. So you see Ido go in for this one. Cold Front's going to connect, but he's just going to back away. And this might be go time. The Urn's actually going to be pushed in towards the turn. Is there going to be anyone there to stop it? The Hex comes through, but it's to stop the Urn from actually getting secured. Quig will fall, but that's not the ideal person you want to take down in this fight here for B&B. But either way, they come out the man advantage. You finally see Fishcake just using that slide to its advantage here, just getting that distance away from Poshipop. But he's down to 300 HP. The heal comes through last second, keeps him alive. And B&B are quick to turn tail and run.
Yeah, that's a huge heal. But again, we saw the urn get deposited there by melee creeps in B&B's territory. So it kind of further demonstrates what I was saying, how if melee creeps want to do something on the map, B&B are, I think, giving them perhaps the right amount of respect. But the problem is that means that they can't really take many of these fights. So they got to find another way to catch melee creeps. But credit to melee creeps, the way that they're kind of moving around when they're in enemy territory is pretty good. You know, they're not really leaving any spots where it's easy to find or, you know, get a catch without, you know, having a couple teammates next to that person to then help. So melee creeps doing a great job, making it very difficult for B&B right now.
You know, let's bring in Jake here, because I kind of saw something that maybe is that potential of a Viper. We saw Poshipop use the flying strike to close the distance. But Fishcake just kept running away with the speed and, of course, with the sliding to not allow Poshipop to kind of stick to him. I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the Viper, if you can get these successful long kiting fights, it can be a problem. But I mean, John has like a full gun build this game. Hold on, they found a catch here on the side lane. Bird has to come in to maybe bail this out. Melee creeps speeding as well to this lane. It's going to be a big team fight.
There we go, DDK. The last one to come through. Actually, yeah, there it is. No, he did get, I don't know if he got interrupted or something, but it didn't seem to connect onto anyone. The frozen shelter locks him in as well. Gabe's going to be healed up through this one. Actually, no, he's not. He's actually going to be chased away here by Saya. It's going to Storm Cloud coming through on top of this, but Yams, he just can't get the damage done. He gets burst before he has a chance. AVG picks himself up too, and just like that, a quick 3 kills for melee creeps. And we're less than a minute away from the next turn.
Yeah, did it get blocked by like an E shift or something? I'm not sure, but I saw that kind of just go into the nether realm as well. Oh, hello. We found a Kelvin, flying strike, and Kelvin's just gone. Okay, so this feels like the point where, you know, you're converting that fight, which was pretty easy from, I mean, they didn't lose or come close to losing a single player melee creeps, and now they're on the mid boss. So it feels like this is where things are getting really bad for BB.
Yeah. Very bad. I mean, it was a 10k lead less than 15 minutes in. That's already really tough to come back from. But the fact is, Poshipop keeps getting stronger. ABG was already able to pick up like a triple kill just, you know, a few moments earlier on, and now Ido getting caught out here. It's tough, man. It's real tough. I don't want to say it's Jover just yet, but the way melee creeps are playing, they look like a completely different force this week than previous.
Yeah, and I definitely think their composition's really nice. It has a lot of value in the early lanes. It has a lot of value in being very agile, a lot of pressure, a lot of burst damage as well. It's a nasty comp to go up against. And B&B, I feel like, you know, this is the thing with Viper 2. We're not really seeing a lot of the value there because Viper, you know, B&B are getting too overwhelmed for Viper to really have maybe that really annoying kiting potential where you've got other heroes creating distraction for the Viper to kind of, you know, pick and choose targets and positioning more effectively.
I mean, he's leading this team at 20k, but the rest of his team's on 16, 15, 12, 19, 12. Like, he can't be the tank, or she can't be the tank and the damager at the same time for the team. They need some assistance to make this one work, and Ido, I think he's going to get a kill there with the help of Fishcake. And the Owl's not going to connect onto the right target, but if Ido eventually falls to the cat lady of AVG. And pure content being forced to use that frozen shelter just to stay alive, but he kind of locks in the person he wanted to keep out here. As low mate on 7,000 souls looking to add towards this tally. AVG comes in to steal it away. And Melee Creeps with a 43,000 soul lead 21 minutes in. I think this is going to be the base taken.
Yeah, when the rejuve was taken, that moment, it was about a 15k soul difference, and it's now a 44k soul difference. So in the last like 2-3 minutes, they have been just devouring BNB players, finding picks left, right, and center. Just they've consumed every single lane and all the value within it. You know, all of the side of BNB's map, all of the jungle there is just gone because Melee Creeps ate it all up. So, and now they're going to go for another unturned in enemy territory, and I'm sure they feel quite confident about that. And at this point, it doesn't feel like BNB have much in the way of stopping power. And to be honest, actually, it didn't feel like there was ever stopping power. I think I go back to that 10 minutes ago where I was saying, okay, every time Melee Crews are doing a rotation, like BNB just respect it and they feel like they have to back off.
Yikes. Yeah, I know what you mean. And the pressure's still coming through for Melee Creeps. They get the earn turn in because they were able to keep the pressure onto the base. You can see BNB were responding by going for a push on the left-hand side. But you know what? They need to get back to their base, or are they just kind of giving up here? They're going to lose the second shrine. They're going to lose their patron. They're going to get a walker, I believe, off of this, giving themselves another flex slot. But ultimately, I think this might just be the game.
Yeah, I think so too. It seems like an open and shut case here in favor of Melee Creeps. We wanted to see what the addition of Quig would look like. It feels like the draft has made things challenging for BNB in some respects, just based on what they're up against as well, not just necessarily their picks in general, but in the pit we go here. So absolutely no fear coming in from Melee Creeps, taking the fight straight to BNB into the heart of the base. And yeah, they're looking to end it right here, I think, Jason. That power patron is almost dead.
Yeah, it's going to fall, and that is going to be Melee Creeps returning to take on the champions of Hydrogenation to be the first team yet again to dethrone them another time. And that looked honestly all too easy for them. And we can already see within the draft and with the gameplay alone, I feel like we have had the second coming of Melee Creeps here. I think Quig has kind of shown what he brings to a team, and this MC, they're looking pretty damn good. John's playing well. He's playing things outside of the ward and outside of the bebop. He's making guys look good. This is potentially a big threat here now for Hydrogenation.
Oh yeah. I can't wait actually to see what's going to happen in that game. Obviously, Hydrogenation, there's a lot of problems to play when you play against them. I'm sure we'll go into that at length later on, but yeah, really nice, first showing with Quig, at least on DFN, and yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what the difference is going to be in a higher stakes match with Quig.
100%. Let's bring in Jake here to break this one down. I hope you had time to get all that food into your mouth, because that was an extremely quick game here, Jake. And Melee Creeps, that was dominating.
That's exactly what I expected, honestly, out of Melee Creeps this game. The fact that they were able to play positively against Hydrogenation previously, they really wanted their shot here in the money match. John also impressed me on the Geist. You were talking about, okay, is there a hero pool issue there? But I think even early on in the game, he was leading in the souls, had a great lane, what was a great contributor in a lot of these key team fights. Even turned around a couple engagements with the soul exchange. So this is exactly the dream for Melee Creeps: is you cruise through that challenger match, you come into the champion match, play for some cash here against a team that you can beat. There's no doubt they're coming in with a head of steam, with a lot of confidence here.
And the fact is, just a few days ago in the Gluten Den 5, they were able to be up 2-1 in the series up against Hydrogenation, obviously having to leave the best of 5 earlier on. But as we do focus on the ends of this match here, who was your player of the match presented by Intel, Jake?
Well, let's take a look at it. Honestly, this was such a team effort from Melee Creeps, but in the end, we had to give it to Saya. Just so many openings found with the holiday. I think constantly engaging into the enemy backline, constantly creating opportunities, and the really dominant early lane was another key factor. This lane with John really came out to a hot start and set the tempo against BNB, who, as you guys mentioned, really was only Fishcake who got to a relevant farm spot. Pretty much no one else could. And a lot of that is just Viper being able to clear camps, but the rest of the team is dying, unable to really take these team fights. Holiday, there's a reason this hero gets banned so often in Europe.
Yeah, it's nasty. It's really nasty. And I think, one of the things that's really cool about Holiday as well is and the players that play Holiday is how good is your map awareness and your mobility, your movement mechanics, because you're already leveraging that pretty heavily with this hero, because you can find pickoffs really easily, or it's about understanding the kind of formation or like the type of setup that the opposing team might have when they're trying to maybe go for an earn fight in a bit and they're just positioning around it. So there's all these like little bits of positional knowledge you need to have on a hero like Holiday to actually maximize the value. So it's always worth. I mean, it's a good hero, but obviously using it to its greatest effect requires a lot of the game knowledge.
Yeah, and we can see here, I mean, he was able to put out 25,000 souls, 14 assists with the 5 kills and only the 1 death for Saya. And of course, the 14,000 player damage on top of this. But looking at AVG, I mean, he finished off 13-1. He did still quite a few kills at the very end, but 21,000 damage. And of course, low main. I mean, every time you see Great Talon, you can almost guarantee to see it be probably the biggest damage dealer in that lobby, Jake.
Yeah, and I mean, man, just a rough game for B&B. Like they got 5 kills all game. Like it is pretty hopeless, honestly, for pretty early on in the game. But this is just a melee creeps that is resurgent, that is coming here with a real intent to defeat Hydronation, to win the championship. And I also feel from a draft perspective, pretty huge edge for melee creeps. They just had it all this game.
Yeah, they did. And honestly, Dan, it makes me excited for what is to come here on the other side of the break. But before we do get to that, I want to bring something up for all of you guys in chat who are watching, and of course all of you who are doing watch parties. If you haven't noticed, and I haven't gotten approval to do this, but I'm gonna do it anyways, it's easier to ask for forgiveness and for permission. Deathy has announced that he is doing a community tournament over on his channel where he takes average players, non-professional players, organizes them into teams and gives them some lessons, aiming for about 8 teams in total. They had over 300 applications, so applications are closed, but people can tune in. So it looks like the first weekend will be on the 26th of April, where they'll be doing some seeding matches. Make sure you guys head over there, check out Deathy DL, and give him some love, and make sure you check this out. I think it's a really cool project. It helps people who are interested in getting to competitive Deadlock. The first kind of toe dipped into the water to see what they can do and if they enjoy it, and if they can potentially pursue that further. So make sure to check that out. But also make sure you guys stick around, because after the break, we're going to be kicking off our finals match, our money match here between Hydronation taking on Melee Creeps here at a best of 3. Winner takes home the $1,000. And my question to you is, chat, do you think Melee Creeps can once again be the team to dethrone Hydronation? We'll find out on the other side of this break here. It's DFN number 22, presented by Intel, and we'll see you all shortly.